And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So it's another new year. So to start off, today's we're now in 2021. So has the pandemic passed us or is it still with us? So we'll see how the businesses around the world are doing and we'll see. Hopefully we'll have a good start and hoping for better better outcomes than what happened last year. Anyway, starting off is in speaking of United Kingdom, they're again in lockdown mode. They due to the increase coronavirus outbreak, and what concerns here is that could last up to 6 months, which is not good for the citizens as well as for many businesses here who's trying to recover here. And this is based from the government official as stated, and it's not just the United Kingdom that's announcing a prolonged restrictions in terms of public movement. You have also the United States as well as the European nations in particular. So let's take a closer look here. Yes, as mentioned here. So according to CNBC here, the article states that according to the United Kingdom's Deputy Chief Medical Officer, they stated that over time, probably over the next 6 months, we will have a 3-week review. If it's necessary, then they need to extend the lockdown, then they would do it. Now, obviously, this does not bode well if that were the case, and obviously the key issue here is the safety of all individuals or citizens here. Now, obviously, this has a detrimental effect for many businesses, and according to them, they're quoted saying that we need to keep that lead on, and then gradually we will be able to hopefully adjust some of the social distancing measures and gradually get us all back to normal. So I think 3 weeks for review, 2 to 3 months to see whether we've really squashed it, but 3 to 6 months ideally, and lots of uncertainty but then to see at which point we can actually get back to normal. Now, obviously, this is a key problem. Obviously, from last year, we've already been in lockdown mode, and based on personal experience, that this doesn't bode well for the individual, for everyone, as well as businesses, as I mentioned earlier. Question is, what's the problem here? How come there's an increase of spike in the cases here? Was there a problem in terms of controlling it? Are citizens not following the safety protocols so that you limit the spread of the virus? Obviously, we don't want a recurrence of any lockdown because in long term this will have a negative effect here. And obviously, according to the article, stated that they are already entering the second week of national lockdown, and according to other countries like in Italy and Spain, which are one of the countries that are worst hit with the pandemic, Italy's total number of cases has already surpassed or nearing 100,000, and the death toll was already over 10,000 people. So that's a lot of people. Spain is already have 80,000 confirmed cases. The death toll is already almost 7,000 individuals here. So obviously, control is the key here. Again, if the increase of spread has risen, obviously the measures have they implemented, has it been effective, or do they need to implement a more stricter measure so that everyone, whether it's businesses or individuals, have to follow those measures? Otherwise, I don't think any businesses or country, whether you're big or small, could sustain another lockdown for a very long period. And the point here is the lockdown is to stop the spread of the outbreak, but the key here is when the initial outbreak started, what were the implementation? Was there any problem so that you can close the gap so that this doesn't happen? And as obviously seen here that it can have a detrimental effect. And as mentioned here, if things were to go out of hand, the health services will be outstretched, and if it passed a breaking point, such a point that the hospitals has to turn away people, then this would be a catastrophic event, which hopefully we don't get to that point. And it was confirmed by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and according to the Health Secretary Matt Hancock, who both ironically contracted the virus. Obviously, on their perspective, they want to ensure the safety of all individuals here. But still, at what cost? Is the measures effective enough, or do they to be more drastic? That if there's going to be lockdown, make sure that this will be the last time. Otherwise, this would be you know not good, or even worse, right? And also, in the United States, according to President Donald Trump, they're extending the national social distancing guidelines all the way up to April. So you can just imagine, we were in 2020 thinking that once 2021 comes along, everything will be okay. But based on projections here, with the vaccine still in tow, waiting for people to be vaccinated, that will take time. So worst case scenario, we have to wait another year before things normalizes, which I don't know people could wait that long, but it is what it is. And speaking of other countries, so we have Germany, who is already more than 62,000 confirmed cases, and they still won't lift restrictions on public life until April the 20th. On the other hand, Italy, which was due to review their own lockdown measures on April 3rd, has said this could be extended. So they said they're going to extend to July, so that's already half a year gone. So people could realistically expect, maybe by Christmas time this year, before things go back, hopefully for the better rather than the worse. And again, according to the UK government, if the United Kingdom is having difficulty managing this, you can just imagine other smaller countries or developing nations like ours would have a significant effect. According to the United Kingdom government, they've already sent a letter to the 30 million households stating that, warning them that the situation around the coronavirus will get worse before it improves. So obviously, both parties has to participate and do their part. Government has to secure the safety and the facilities itself, and then the citizen has to do their part to help the cause, not make it more harder for the government to do their objective here. Now, obviously, restrictive measures imposed on the country are being implemented. The question is, will it be effective, and how long does it last? We still have to wait and see. And obviously, they're already expecting an increase first of cases before things will normalize and turn for the better. And we can only hope, since they're mentioning that they're waiting for the curve to go down before things, before the cases would subside and so forth. And it's not just the country as a whole that's going to be affected here. Obviously, businesses will have a big role in this one. And according to the article here, so businesses, in particular the car industry, car sales have dropped at an all-time low compared way back during World War II. So you can just imagine, that's been how many decades already? Since 1914, 1940, 60, almost 80 years ago. So you can just imagine how bad the situation is if we're looking that back, far back, to compare the situation that's happening in the United Kingdom. And as mentioned, the car sales has already fell nearly 30% compared to last year, in the biggest annual drop since 1943. As I mentioned, going back to after the World War II. And if things were looking bad at the time, it can only get worse since the lockdown is still in effect. So people have to wait, before things reopen again, before people can go back to their normal lives, and even the possibility of, buying, you know, in this case, cars is not at the top of their list. So according to the article here, as mentioned, the performance leaves new car sales at their lowest since 1992, suffering the biggest drop since 1943. So you can just imagine going back several decades or even a century already. And it's not just in the United Kingdom, or as well as in England and in Scotland, wherein car sectors faces the significant challenges here since the new lockdown was implemented now. This doesn't bode well for businesses, but the question here is, what's the main objective? To help the business survive, or to ensure the safety of the citizens moving forward? But obviously, those two have to go hand in hand, and the government has a difficult task of balancing both here. And well, speaking of closing businesses, well, in this case, Apple is temporarily closing all their stores in the United Kingdom. Now, obviously, they've been shutting their stores from last year already. Before before the Christmas season. So they've nearly closed all of their location, as well as in other countries in California, in the United States, as well as in Mexico and Brazil. Now in England and Scotland, since the new lockdown has been implemented, it's now closing all of its stores nationwide, and additional 18 stores are going to be closed in the United Kingdom, including several stores in Scotland and in Belfast, as well as in Belfast, Ireland. So obviously, Apple is only able to offer express service only in their many stores, meaning you can able to order online and pick up at the stores, but you're not able to browse products in their store, which is, a convenience that the company can afford. And it's more convenience for many individuals who are trying to buy their products. Now, is this going to be a long-term strategy here? Well, obviously not many companies here can afford what Apple is doing here, not have the resources, the manpower, and so forth. But at the end of the day, many businesses are significantly hampered with the current situation here, and it's only with the help of the government, as well as the individual citizens, to expedite the process and ensure that the spread of the virus can be contained and should be contained, so that moving forward, business can reopen, people's lives can get back to some normalcy. Obviously, with what happened last year, the new norm will not be what it used to be pre-2019. So that's something to understand. Anyway, moving forward. So speaking of games, by the way, are you familiar with the game of Farmville? It's a farm simulation type of game. It's very addictive. It's a very popular game. Millions of people are playing this game for several years. Well, actually, I haven't played the game, but I know the game. Sadly, it has come to an end. So if you're a Farmville lover, well, it's coming to an end. And according to Facebook, they've stated that the Farmville game will be discontinued, not because of poor sales, because of the decision from Adobe, which is one of the makers of the Flash player for web browsing games, will be discontinued. So this is sad for many players who are using the platform here. Now, according to the article here, let's see here. There you go. So, where is it? There you go. So it was stated in this article that more than 30 players were playing this game during at its peak on a daily basis. So that's a lot of addicted players playing this game. You can just imagine during the lockdown, people are looking for ways to keep themselves entertained. Playing games is one of the key components here. That's why in my case, instead of playing Farmville, I purchased the game on the Nintendo Switch platform, the Animal Crossing, another popular game. similar to how Farmville works. It's a simulation of sorts, but not so much into farming. But you know, it's the same. It's a game, right? But again, so what is the problem here? How come Adobe has stopped updating its Flash player here? Now, obviously, one of the key issues here is the Flash player has fallen out of favor with many of the tech companies and organizations here, meaning of its plug-in as a battery hog. And another issue here was the security vulnerability. And obviously, the popularity has waned in recent years, wherein a more popular platforms such as the HTML5 became a more preferred platform, wherein you don't have to use their plugins to run the graphics here, which is you know more beneficial for developers as well as accessibility for many users here. Now, sad to say that if you still want to play the game here, there are always other options here. There's still the Farmville 2 version, Tropic Escape, and Farmville 2 Country Escape. So you can still play those games, and actually they're going to create another version, Farmville 3 for mobile version. So if you're still into Farmville, never fear. There's still an opportunity for you to play the game itself. Anyway, so continuing with technology here. So you'll be surprised here in Japan with the pandemic that's going on. People still have to buy their products. Now, obviously, their lockdown is not as stringent as in other countries. So people are allowed to go out, do their normal activities in terms of buying their products and services, go to the stores and buy it for themselves. Obviously, there's our apprehension in terms of, contact from human to human here. So in order to alleviate that concern, shops have begun developing a delivery system wherein, you use AI here or autonomous vehicles to deliver the goods or services, similar to how I think Amazon is planning to deliver their products using drones to deliver products here. And guess what? So Panasonic here is taking a step further by using its technology by promoting or implementing actually a self-driving robot to deliver the services. So if drone can deliver your products through air, Panasonic's delivery system is somewhat I won't say ingenious, but it is what it is. It's a new technology that maybe a lot of people would adopt this, but how effective it is, we still have to wait and see. So, or where was it? Okay, I think it's here. There you go. So, as mentioned, so Panasonic is the company that is taking the lead here in terms of promoting the delivery system here. So, they announced way back in late December that they've already begun trials for the self-driving delivery robot. And it's going to start actually delivering goods and services come February in a limited location, limited basis, somewhere in the residential area, somewhere in Kanagawa Prefecture. So the test of the feasibility of having a delivery service using an autonomous little robot that can travel a maximum speed of 4 kilometers per hour with a load of stuff. So obviously you cannot compare it to a big truck vehicle of carrying as many items as you can. But with small doses, you need lots of vehicles to deliver, based on the demand here. So what does it look like? Let's take a look here. Yeah, so it looks something like this. So that's why they call it, it's adorable with its, which is outlook. How did they come up with this one? Actually, it's based on a very, how do you call this? Very innovative improvements by using existing technology, by using a what do you call this? What did they use here? They use existing machines like a wheelchair that's that they put a motor in it, and obviously they put a cab on top of it to put things that they can deliver here. And they actually started the first trial in the Kanagawa Prefecture, dubbed as the Japanese smart town. So as you can see here in the photo, it's a sustainable smart town called Fujisawa, and they continue the trials until end of December. Obviously, with the success that they have garnered, they plan to implement this in a more bigger aspect here. So question is, will it be an effective tool? Now, obviously, looking at the device here, you need uh, several several vehicles to deliver if there's a significant demand from the many individuals that need the products here. Now, one of the key aspects here is obviously the limitations of a small vehicle here, but with the looks, based on the looks alone, people are finding it adorable, which is a positive thing. So people won't find it alarming that they see motorized vehicles moving about on by itself. But how effective it will be in other regions, we still have to wait and see. Now, right now, the company, yes, company is in its second phase now, where they will deliver the robot, where they will deliver actual necessities of people living within the area here. So including food as well as purchased from local stores here. So they will plan to start it by February here. Question is, will there be a demand for these services? Now, this could be a precursor moving forward, especially in Japan, wherein labor is a premium. There's a shortage in Japan. So using technologies, machineries, automated vehicles would be a big help here. But testing it is one thing, then actually implementing it, similar to how Tesla is implementing their automated self-driving vehicles, is a big daunting task. So they're going to need tons of data or AI or machine learning to improve their processes so that the machine could learn faster, avoid obstacles, dangerous obstacles, and ensure the safety of not just the machine but as well as whoever is in their path. We'll have to wait and see how effective they can be. And speaking of technology, continuing along the same lines, we have Tesla here. We were just talking about it regarding their self-driving vehicle. Here's another interesting news. A Tesla enthusiast called Whole Mars Catalog was able to implement or use travel from one city to another by fully self-driving the vehicle, technically almost all of the entire trip. So it was posted with a video for their full self-driving equipped Model 3. So completing the trip from San Francisco going to Los Angeles with virtually no intervention. So almost 100%, but it's a very misleading concept that Tesla is promoting. It's fully self-driving, but they still haven't perfected the technology, and they need to be careful in terms of how they promote it. Maybe you could say assisting self-driving, something like that, but don't say it's fully developed self-driving vehicle, because you cannot totally rely on the AI of the machine, in this case the vehicle, because it can still crash and could be severe detrimental effect on the passengers' lives here. Where is it? Let's see here. Yes, as mentioned here, now it's notable that the feature is being implemented, but it's still rough around the edges. As mentioned, it's not yet perfected, and that's the key point here. So the name self-driving can be somewhat misleading. That's why, as mentioned here also in the article, they need to remove the term full self-driving. I think assistant self-driving would be more appropriate in a sense, so that it's just helping you, not replacing the driver itself, so that the driver would be still in control. Have to be in control, not necessarily distracted doing other stuff or sleeping while the car is driving by itself and so forth, which can be catastrophic. And obviously people would be lazy if they are not warned about those scenarios, and could be dangerous in general here. As well as stated here, based on the performance here, there was also some erratic lane behavior, meaning around, in particular in San Francisco Market Street, which was it's very zigzag, and there's very highs and lows of streets that not flat. So the machine has a lot of learnings to go before you can confidently say that you can have a fully automated self-driving vehicle. Actually, comparing it to an airplane where it has autopilot, you don't leave it by itself. You still need an individual or a pilot to drive the airplane here. Now it can help you ease the process in terms of long haul flight. The autopilot can be a tremendous help, similar to a vehicle, wherein if you're in a highway, I think the autopilot system can be implemented similar to that. But within the city streets, I think it will be dangerous if you're going to rely solely on self or on AI or self-driving technologies, because there are so many situations that the machine learning has to take into account, and I don't think anyone has ever perfected that yet. Even for humans who are driving for years or even decades, can get into an accident if we're not careful. So what more for a machine learning who has to learn from the individual who's driving the vehicle. But again, obviously Elon Musk is pushing for AI here, automated driving. It's an exciting prospect, but we still have to wait and see how it's going to turn out. And as mentioned, now in terms of California's warmer climate, it's ideal for Tesla's camera-based technology, obviously using LiDAR to scan the surroundings so that they can make the necessary changes to make it safe, to avoid collision as mentioned. But can that be said the same in other regions, other temperate climates? If there's snow or sand or whatever situation could it be? So it's still a work in progress. I think hopefully within our lifetime, years or decades from now, we can see a fully automated vehicle that is implemented properly. Hopefully. Anyway, we have to wait and see still. Anyway, speaking of technology, so again, continuing with Apple. Why is it that Apple, if it's not an issue with their customer, with their partners, in this case, they're picking a fight with small businesses here. Now, according to the article stated here, Apple sued the company Prepear, if you've heard of that. So let's see here. Yeah. So Prepear is a company that it's an app that plans food for healthy kids, right? And one of the main issues here that Apple is stating that the logo of the Prepear, which is a pear, looks similar to an apple. So how can this be similar? They're not the same fruit, and they don't bear any semblance. A pear is different from an apple, and they're saying that it has the minimalist effect. I don't think Apple has the monopoly of the minimalist effect. They can just say that it's theirs. And what's ironic here is that the company Prepear has not got nothing to do or similarities with what Apple is doing in terms of software, or I won't say software, but developing apps or even developing products or services here. But obviously, if you're a big company, you have the right to sue other people if you can get away with it. That's why they're in this hot waters in terms of being in an antitrust case because of their unfair practices, not just how they treat customers, how they treat their employees, as well as their partners, in this case, other competitors. Now, would you consider Prepear as a competitor for Apple? I don't think so. So what's the reasoning behind it? Is it pettiness that you see here? And what's ironic here is, they're already filed a grievance in Canada as well. So obviously on Prepear side, they're stating that this is a bullying tactic and it's costing the company thousands of dollars. Now obviously for Apple, they have the coffers to do that. And obviously this doesn't bode well if you're going to fight a big giant company like Apple. But according to the founder of Prepear, who is CEO Russell Monson, launched a petition to say save the pear and ends Apple's aggressiveness opposition of business with fruit logos. I don't think Apple has the monopoly of fruit logos here. So if I were to create a company that bears a banana, an orange or something, would they sue me as well? I think it's a very petty it's a very petty decision making that you know, it just goes to show how Apple has been shown to be opposing small businesses that has, you know, if they're similar to their logo or an approximation, obviously fighting a very expensive legal action, obviously they can hold out much longer compared to the other companies here. And according to what's stated here, you know, the Apple's logo aren't in the same line of business as Prepear here, as mentioned. And you know, good news, using social media, the appeal has already garnered 270,000 signatures here. Now, obviously, based on the article, there are in a agreement, settlement talks to stop, you know, hopefully Apple is paying them, not the other way around, for, you know, bullying tactics that they're doing here, based on the US Patent and Trademark Office that, you know, has been halted their not the settlement, but in terms of there have been settlement talks. Hopefully they can be reached by end of January. Otherwise, Apple's actions will recommence if no settlement was agreed upon here. Hopefully Apple would stop, you know, pursuing this line of action and focus more on their products and services that has truly impacted their business. I don't think Prepair has done that so much. Anyway, so continuing with another story here. Speaking of businesses impacted, so here's an update of the movie industry. So we've discussed it heavily last year regarding how the pandemic has stopped the leisure activities of many individuals from going to movie theaters, going to malls and theme parks and whatnot. So for the movie theaters, in particular the theater owners, they are frustrated about how the companies or the studios, big studios, have transitioned from, you know, partnering with movie theaters, but, you know, using their own platforms, streaming platforms at such, to promote their movies. Now, whether that's a good strategy or not, we still have wait and see. But according to the article here, yeah, it's mentioned here that the symbiotic relationship between studios and movie theaters have been somewhat lovely and at the same time contentious. Obviously, you know, one relies on the other to generate the maximum revenue for movie theaters, so that for movie studios as well as for movie theaters. Now, with the pandemic, what can a movie studio do? Now, with how the movie Tenet fared, it didn't generate millions or hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Many studios are afraid of releasing it, especially last year. That's why I think Warner Brothers stated that they're going to release their entire lineup this year using their streaming platform HBO Max, which is, you know, obviously if you're a movie theater owner, you don't like it because it will eat up in your revenue in terms of getting more people to watch in the movie theaters versus watching it at home here. Obviously, this is also a risk for movie studios since they're trying to generate revenue but using the streams, since not everyone has adopted, you know, watching all of their movies, TV shows, all in streaming services. You know, it's a long uphill battle there. So it's still a long ways to go here. Anyway, so let's see here. So obviously, cinema owners and distributors are doing what they can to keep things professional during the high stress of emotion here. And according to one of the cinema owners here, as mentioned, they understand why the studios have to do what they have done, but obviously they don't like it. And this has disrupted the status quo of what has been a sort of agreement between the two parties here. Now, obviously, one of the agreements here, as mentioned, is blockbuster films in particular was typically shown in movie theaters for at least about 90 days, more or less 3 months, so that they can maximize the revenue per ticket. But obviously with the lockdown, it has shifted. So, you know, some movie theaters have to shut down and maybe they have to change their business model. So for bigger chains, movie theaters like AMC and what's the other company? I forgot the other one. Yeah, Cinemark. They can survive this, but up to when is a bigger issue here. And obviously bigger franchises, as mentioned, should be kept longer in the cinemas will have a short timetable. Maybe instead of 3 months, it will be shortened to maybe a month. For some, like Warner Brothers, they have simultaneously released the film in their streaming services as well as the movie theaters. Obviously, this would split the revenue for moviegoers. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, this is more beneficial for moviegoers like I do, but obviously, it's a different experience if you're watching a movie in an actual big movie theater as compared to watching it at home, unless you have your own movie theater in your own household, which not everyone can afford to do that. So hopefully, when things subsides in terms of the number of cases, when it's safe to go back out there, I think everything will turn back to some normalcy in a sense. And obviously for customers or moviegoers, the audience will have an option to watch wherever they want to watch their films, whether in a big movie theater, in a small screen, in their TVs, in their homes, whether in their mobile phones and so forth. So this gives us more options here, which is a big plus. But how does this affect the movie theaters? Obviously, this does not bode well for them. But again, at the end of the day, will this end the civilization, which is the movie theaters? Again, with the vaccination rates increase, as mentioned in the article, as the cases decrease, it's more than likely people will still go back and watch movies in the big screen. So, in reality, the movie theaters will not be dead, right? Not for a long time, unless there's a new streaming services that supplants the movie theater experience, which I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Anyway, finally, for our last story here. So speaking of companies, coming up with new ideas how to generate more revenue, sell their products, Gucci of all companies here has created a new collection of their products. Now, obviously, Gucci is a very high-end product, especially for women's bags, jackets, footwears, and sweaters. They're going to partner up with the most unlikeliest company, in this case, character. So let's see. Can you guess who could it be? So here it is. It's Doraemon. It's a famous Japanese character, right? So for those who are not familiar, Doraemon is based on a Japanese anime character written by Fujiko Fujio, who is supposed to be a cat-type robot, which was introduced way back in 1970, and it's considered Japan's one of the most popular characters, I think, outside of Mario. Now they just celebrated their 50th anniversary here. That's why it was an interesting partnership for the two companies. I think Gucci saw there is a big market, in particular, I'm assuming in Japan and other parts in other countries, that there is a big demand for the product, which is selling Doraemon items here, and based on who their target market is, can afford to buy those expensive products. And I think it makes sense for them. They were supposed to launch it last year, but obviously with the pandemic, doesn't make sense. But this year, it seems that it was fitted for the release here, and obviously they expect to generate a high volume of sales here. With the limited edition, people who like Doraemon, who loves Doraemon the character, and who loves Gucci at the same time, kill two birds with one stone. If you like those two products, you can buy it in one fell swoop. Now, can you guess how much their items ranges? So from $800 all the way to $2,000. So it's not cheap. It's very expensive, from almost 40 to 50,000 pesos all the way to 200,000 pesos. So you can just imagine. So it's a very niche market, but it's a very lucrative market. So people will still buy their products at the end of the day. Anyway, this concludes our discussion for today. Thank you again for joining me again. So for any articles you want to check out, there you go. I lost audio. As always, as I mentioned, thank you again for joining me. As always, I'll see you again next week, same time, same channel. Take care, and Happy New Year to everyone.